You know, the typical means thought of when it comes to coloring wood is you buy a dye or stain and you put it on and you're done. Well, you need to kind of think a little bit outside the box. We do a thing that has served us quite well forever, and we simply call it layering colors. Now, unlike a glaze, where a glaze goes over a coat of finish, this is where we actually use either two stains, two dyes, or typically a dye and a stain. What I have here, and we're going to try to get photographs of these up, is what I did is I went through and I took the general finish line of products, and over here, like in this case, this is cinnamon dye, this one's vintage cherry dye, and then I took their stains and put over top of them. Now what you have to understand is this is on poplar. Here's where I took, here's Empire Red, this is their Merlot, again, and then you start getting up here and you start looking at using this, and again, this is on poplar, but you know, particularly when you're trying to create these deep burgundy looks that we've got up here, that's a tough color to get sometimes. But you can see the various shades and whatever we're able to get. Again, we'll try to get good pictures of these and get it up. Just to show you, here's a few more. Here's an amber dye. And as we come down, this is a black cherry over an amber dye. Now can we get in on that, Ed, right there? Now, you've heard me tell you that you can make as nice a looking walnut out of poplar as you want. Well, that's one of the colors that does it. Now here's a black cherry over a light walnut or light brown, a little darker. Here's where we get a little more nuts. Here's your yellow, here's your orange, and then various colors over it. Look at this one right here. When you talk about a walnut or a mahogany, this is walnut over orange. This right here is one of my favorite colors. Can we get over here, Ed? This is one of my favorite colors on mahogany, and I had an opportunity I reproduced a mahogany table that had naturally darkened and aged, and it was a couple 225 years old, and this matched it perfectly. And it's rosewood over orange. You'd be amazed at the emails and whatever I got, and the question says, you mean you actually took this thing and dyed it orange? Yep, and you'll see some of that as it looked like a pumpkin until I went over it with the rosewood. Now this right here, this is a piece that we were using in the blotch control thing or whatever. And just to kind of give you an idea, what I've got is I've got a water-based dye, okay, which is in this case cinnamon. And I'm going to take a little bit of rosewood stain and go over it. Now, we have the situation of like on like. That means we got a water-based stain going over a water-based dye. It actually doesn't do too bad as long as you let it dry. Can you see this? We've got that's a snipe, that's a planer mark. We didn't sand it. You can see how you get that. This is almost like the orange because I didn't put a lot of. But what it does is it picks up those background tones. There's an antique cherry. We just grabbed some real quick to show you. This will be a little browner. But you definitely see the effect that you're getting. Wipe it off here a little bit. And the neat thing about using the water base is, I've told you with a dye, you can put many coats on as you want. But what all you're doing is creating a background color. That's what, like in the poplar over here when we were talking about the walnut, this is a piece we were using back there as well for the blotch. And this end has got some cinnamon on it that's darker. But again, it's just a simple matter of using a stain. You know, it doesn't have to be a stain over a dye, but that seems to be what comes up the best. And we do like it with the water base because the water base seems to afford the most clarity. See, dyes are not going to obscure the grain at all. A stain maybe a little, but again, we find that the see, you kind of want that burgundy, brown burgundy cherry look. There you go. It'll do it. So all of that said to say, you know, think a little bit outside. You know, when you've got something, you know, again, I get chastised. People says, you know, I don't dye cherry. I'm gonna let it go natural. And the same thing with walnut. Well, like I said, we're going to be doing segments on each one of those woods, and when you look at them, you're going to see, you're going to understand what I'm telling you. You know, there's nothing prettier, in my opinion, than natural cherry. It's gorgeous. But the problem is that because cherry, like mahogany and whatever, it ages, it darkens as it ages, and it develops that gorgeous patina. But often the issue is that when in the confines of a build, you've got, you know, 4 or 5 different color boards or whatever, sometime more. And so they don't age the same. And it just doesn't have that even nice color. But if you can establish what we'll call a baseline of color, then as it ages, it stays nice and even. That said, that's kind of what layering a color does. You know, you're using a base dye to establish a baseline color. And just like in the case of the poplar, you know, that base dye is creating that background, and it's null and voiding the green and whatever poplar has in it, or whatever wood. And, you know, it makes it beautiful. It's a really good technique, and once you play with it and experiment a little bit, you'll find you really like it. All right, layering colors.